I'm Al Sanders. We've named this program simply Jerry Turner. What we want to do in the next hour is remember the man. So many of you joined us yesterday as we said goodbye to Jerry. So much has been said since Thursday night by people from all walks of life about Jerry Turner. So what's left? Well, memories are left, and tonight we want to remember as much as we can about the man we all worked with. So tonight, joining me, Denise Koch, Bob Turk, John Buren, George Bauman, and I, we will talk about some of our favorite moments with Jerry. And some of the tape you've seen, of course, some of it you haven't. And along the way, other members of the Eyewitness News family will also join us. We also want to get some of your favorite memories about Jerry Turner. So we'll be taking a phone call or two as well on this special night devoted to our memories of Jerry.
You know, we sometimes thought, all of us, that Jerry did his newscasts just to get to the end so he could do the kicker.
Yes.
That may be true. I don't know. Well, he was a good journalist, and he could tell a story without making an encyclopedia of it, concisely and accurately. I remember many times I'd cover a story. He was writing it, and I'd try to give him the details, you know, and he said this, that person is that, and, you know, said, I got it, Daddy, I got it, don't worry about it. Bang, 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 it was out. On the last newscast he did, I had covered some story, and somebody was talking in it, and I was trying to explain to him what they said, you know. And I was getting all involved in it. But I said, probably the best part is at the end. Probably. And he said, forget it, Daddy, I'll take care of it. Off he went.
Yeah.
And it, you know, was accurate. He got it in. That's the way he was.
Why did he call you Daddy? We were talking about it the other day. That had to do with the cool school and sort of the
cool
era
school,
of music.
You know, everybody called him Bubba.
Bubba.
And it started back in the early days. He talked to swing and jazz a lot, and it pretty soon became, hi, Daddy, how you doing, Daddy?
He called everybody Daddy.
It was Cleet Bellman. He didn't call me Daddy.
He didn't call you Daddy. That's another story.
You know, I remember the first story I did here. I had the good fortune to go out and talk to a Colombian police officer who came here to get a trained dog. A bunch of reporters were there. We each picked one person to talk to. I get the one who spoke no English. And I asked him, why come all the way to Baltimore to get a trained police dog? Because surely somewhere between Colombia and here there had to be another city he could stop in. And he said, Baltimore is a very pretty city. And he never understood another word I said. So I get this back to the station. This is my first story. I write the lead in, and Jerry looked at it, and after we went on the air, he came up to me and said, where are you from? I said, St. Louis. He asked if I'd sold the house. Then he helped pick me off the floor and saved my career.
You're talking about the kickers, though. And obviously that was, for when Jerry was on the 11s, that was the focal point. I think that's what most people watched for. I think that's what all of us were waiting for. I will never, ever forget the night that we'd done sports spotlights and things are sort of flowing. And Jerry comes out to do the kicker, and Skip Ball, who's the floor director tonight on this show, Jerry got 2 lines into the kicker, and Skip is behind that camera, and all he says is, uh-oh. And Jerry went to pieces. You know, as good a journalist as the guy was, in the first block and the second block, I mean, it's Jack Webb journalism, just the facts, man. It was just as straight as anybody. But you know, when he got past that to sports and weather, it was party time, and he could fall apart funnier than anybody. You know, it's like that classic scene with Steve Allen years ago where he just completely lost it, and Jerry just completely lost it that night, and it was that utter humanity that I think people just gushed for him, because that's something that everybody does. They just lose complete control. And
some of them were so
hilarious.
silly. Some of them?
Some of them were, a few of them were serious. A few were actually serious.
Well, you know, I used to turn to him, you guys know, because I'd turn it at the end after we do the kicker, and the show music was playing, and I go, what is this just in on the wires here? Because half of them were jokes, of course, but he would sort of present the thing as though this was a situation that took place today in our city.
Sure.
And the one you're talking about is Jerry's famous maroon joke, which I'm sure half of the audience or more remember. But you know, the interesting thing about the kickers is that Jerry used to put the kicker in first. I know as soon as the early show was over, he'd sit down, he'd do a crossword puzzle.
He'd write it. Yeah.
And then he'd go right into the script before the producer had even formatted the show because he knew that that was going to be the final thing, and he'd write that kicker. Sometimes he'd come in at 3 with an idea for the
Tell you
kicker.
what, we'll talk a little bit more about the kickers because we do have, each of us, some special moments. But we don't want to give the impression that that's all he was, because Jerry, of course, was so much more than just the light story at the end of the newscast.
You know, he had one weakness that a lot of us do in journalism, newspaper people as well as our types, and that is a likeness for the political scoundrels. You know, you report objectively all of the troubles they got into, the jails they went to. But there's something attractive about people like that. They can be fun, you know?
And he called them scoundrels.
These scoundrels, but he kind of liked them. I think quite a few of them are his good friends.
First and foremost, Jerry Turner was a first-class journalist.
He covered the saddest of news.
Challenger, go at throttle up.
And he covered the most joyous. During his 25 years in Baltimore, Jerry Turner brought the story home. One of the biggest came early on in his career at WJZ in 1963, when he told Baltimore of the assassination of President Kennedy. The killing of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy followed, and from the anchor desk, he reported on everything from the unraveling of Watergate to the night the Colts slipped out of town. But when he had the chance, Jerry Turner liked to leave the studio and go back to the streets, where he began as a reporter, covering stories like the first visit of Pope John Paul II to the United States.
It's a different kind of atmosphere that he brings with him, and perhaps, hopefully, it is a lasting kind of peace that he will bring on his papal visit here to the United States.
There were also harder stories, like an investigation of truck safety.
What about speed? I mean, you hear guys talking on the CB about that to keep going?
Yes, it's the same thing.
And one of the earliest reports on what is wrong with the Chesapeake Bay.
You're liable to catch maybe an empty six-pack or an old tire or some cans, that kind of thing. But no fish.
News took Jerry Turner to the Middle East, Germany, England, and much of the U.S. But he was primarily a local newsman with a personal style that wasn't afraid to let the personality through.
We probably have a slight complaint with all the candidates, so tonight, at least the major ones. They have wrapped it up so quickly that they've taken a lot of the old-time suspense and fun out of waiting.
I know. Besides that, I was planning on paying the mortgage off. That's right. Well, you're not going to happen.
And because he wasn't afraid to smile, he wasn't afraid to sometimes let the sadness come through, like the night the world learned of the loss of the pride of Baltimore.
Spring nights to come, when sailors spin their tales, they'll talk of pride. Her trips in friendship's name. Her final port on ocean's floor. Her captain's fate. Her crew and how they spent a lifetime, 4 days and 7 hours adrift. To bring us back their story of valor and the sea.
He was so proud of his ability as a writer, and it really showed when he was able to go out into the field to be a reporter.
Which he wanted to do more than he was able to do because we needed him so badly here. But I know he really wanted to a lot. He loved to go out in the field. When he did a series, about 2 or 3 years ago on World War II, I remember, he got to go out of town to a number of places that had airplanes stored and that sort of thing. And I remember him saying to me at that time that he really wished that he could just be a field journalist if that ever were to be possible for him.
Oh, and crossing the Atlantic with the Maryland Air National Guard,
right,
the refueling in flight with the big monstrous jets. Oh, did he love that? Which, of course, he was a flyer. I always thought he was kidding about that. I always
he was a pilot.
That he could fly.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Well, listen, I don't know how to say that.
No.
I never saw him fly, but I
Did you ever tell you the story about the bananas?
What?
The banana story?
Oh,
when he worked in the railroad?
Yes, of course. But the flying thing, the flying.
2 years ago, said he flew bootleg booze down in the South, from border to border.
No. I think he told us all this. I know he liked big engines, though, because every time I would cover a tractor or a truck pull, you would think I was going to meet the Queen of England. I mean, it was like, you're going down a civic trail, I got those big trucks, I got those big tractors. Oh, I'm so lucky, it's going to be so great. And that was my fortunate thing, which is that for about 5 years, every day that I shared with Jerry, I shared in sort of a lighthearted way because always in doing the lifestyle and entertainment reports, that was sort of like, oh boy, we could have some fun now, you know. He just had fun with you, now he's going to have some fun with me, which he
I
did.
was the fall guy first.
Yes.
Weather. Unless the weather was a really serious story, I was always the fall guy. It was either me picking on Jerry or Jerry. It was always first Jerry picking on me.
Remember when your father told you to stop picking on Jerry and to stop hitting him? Because he just did his own.
Hitting Jerry. Okay, I won't hit him anymore. Sorry. Didn't realize it was Jerry.
But that was a nice thing I thought about yesterday when a lot of us gathered yesterday afternoon, is that most of the people, no matter where they were in the room, a lot of us got together after the memorial service. You always had to end up laughing. No matter what we were talking about in terms of Jerry, even though it was a horribly sad occasion, you ended up somehow laughing because he was so much fun. And really, I think all of my memories of Jerry will have laughter in them.
I'm in charge of decorum here, you know. I mean, not on this program too often, but we do try to run a tight ship.
The tails are more.
Play straightforward. When Randy wears contact lenses, I wear a piece, and Bob Turk wears chest hair, you know. So, I mean, it's all tinsel and glitter, folks. I mean, you must know that by now.
Jerry was in charge of decorum, but no one loved to see it fall away better than he did. He made fun of himself, of all of us, and we loved every minute of it.
Show the folks there how good it is, and we'll all get into it.
Oh, very much. Go right ahead.
It's good. Yummy, right?
Not bad. What's got raisins in it?
We don't know what they are. But
Little things in there. We'll find out.
all right, Robert. Have a ball there. You got it. Still to come on Eyewitness News. Bob Turk he will rejoin us. Hopefully. When Eyewitness News returns.
Jerry really let go on Eyewitness News recap. He persuaded me to do sports one night.
Let's see. Is there anything else here important?
Yes, that's very important.
Okay. In Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks have fired National Football League head coach Jack Patera and general manager Mr. Thompson. And Mike McCormick moves in as interim coach for the rest of the season. McCormick, a former head coach, you know, Jerry, in Philadelphia and Baltimore, will return to his post as director of football operations next season. I think that's always Is that a judgment?
No, it's not a judgment. I thought it was terrific. And I don't know why you couldn't get Thompson's first name when you got Joaquin Andujar.
It was delightfully infectious. Jerry laughed, and we all laughed.
Once upon a time, there were 8 puppies left out in the cold to die, but along came a prince. A prince of a police officer, that is, and tonight, because of his efforts, 8 puppies will live happily ever after. Tonight, 4 of the little fur balls have homes. Oh my, let's just forget it. They're all happy and they're doing much better than I am right now. I will need a home to be adopted to soon.
Oh, you can see we're overjoyed that these little fur balls have homes. I should enjoy it, that stuff. We'll be back in a moment.
Who wrote that? I'm not going to tell you who wrote that. I'm not going to tell you, but I will do this. We got some calls on that one, you know. Imagine what's funny about a police officer adopting dogs? Well, it was the way it was written. You know, a prince came along and he sort of lost it there.
Sort of lost. That's what I was talking about, though, is that just break it up. And so many anchor people will look at that and say, oh, don't ever do that. You know, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be serious. And you got to have dignity and all that. Well, Jerry had seriousness and dignity, but it was in the right place. And he also had the freedom and the confidence to say, hey, this is funnier than I can stand, and I've got to take a minute and just recover from this.
But his laugh was so
wonderful.
infectious.
Oh my gosh.
Once you start,
Try watching that and not smile. It's impossible.
or if our stage manager would start laughing about something, it would get us going, and it was over. You couldn't catch your breath.
That's why it's important tonight, and that's what this hour is all about. And we'll come back in just a moment to continue.
Finally, Jessie Bowling. You may remember her. Jessie received her high school diploma yesterday. She did not graduate when she was supposed to because she refused to read some assigned poetry in 1920. A lot of us can sympathize with that. The school, however, now figures she should have a diploma. Mrs. Bowling, now 85 years old, said she refused to read the poetry of Geoffrey Chaucer, so they wouldn't let her graduate. As she put it today, that was the driest junk I ever saw. Good night, everybody.
Welcome back to our special tribute to Jerry Turner. Joining us now, our friend and colleague, Michael Olesker. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me. You know, we've been talking about funny memories and funny things. I was looking through some of the tapes, and I remember one night, it was late. Lou Tilley was doing Sports Day. About 3 or 4 years ago, I guess it was, something like that. And he was doing a live shot.
After Monday Night Football.
After Monday Night Football. Watch what happens. Watch this.
Okay, this can hear us, but we can't hear him. Well, do you know what happened at the Civic Center tonight? I do.
Well, the blast won tonight over the St. Louis Steamers 5-4.
Lou, touch up your fingers. If you can hear me, show me how many fingers, how many scores the Blast had.
He can hear it!
Blast had 5.
And the Steamers.
And the Steamers had 3. All right. Okay. You're doing a wonderful job so far, Lou.
How the Orioles do tonight?
Okay. Golly. What the Orioles do tonight, Lou? How many runs did they have? The Orioles didn't play tonight. I see. They're sound asleep in Detroit, getting ready for the big game tomorrow with the Detroit Tigers. I see. What are the Detroit Tigers doing at this hour, you think, Lou? I see. Okay. I knew he was going to do that. How did I know that? Well, anyway. Well, okay, it's a little bit of a washout for sports tonight. Lewis can hear us, but we can't hear him. Good night, Lou. Lewis at the Civic Center giving it a good old college try there. We had a little trouble with the microphone. But anyway, the Blast won. That's good news. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night, everybody.
Instant panic. Anywhere else, I think. Right?
Any anchor person would have gone,
right.
I guess I'll just read the scores. Jerry just turned it into gold, just like that.
Of course, that was late. That was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Just not after Monday, but you're right.
Yeah, but this is a guy who went through life having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, he really enjoyed himself, whether it was sports or anything. And you know, I remember saying to him, you must have had people come up to you and tell you run for office. and he said, yeah, he had some big money people come to him one time, and they sat him down in a room, and they said, look, we're going to get you into office, and then we're going to put this guy into this position if you're comfortable with that, and then we're going to put this guy into this position if you're comfortable with that, and we'll put this guy in this position if you're comfortable with that. And finally, Jerry said, he just looked at me and said, Daddy, I'm not comfortable with any of this. He got up and walked out of the room.
Well, he thought seriously about it once. I remember he came to me and he said, what do you think about politics, Daddy? I said, well, you know, what about it? Well, I'm thinking about something. How would you feel about being a lieutenant governor? And I said, why lieutenant governor? He said, who's the governor? Guess who was going to be the governor?
Right. All right. I mean, he always attracted the all-time losers in politics. For some reason, they were attracted to him. People who couldn't win. If they could buy the election, they couldn't win. And they would keep calling Jerry as like an old buddy and an old pal, and he'd be kind to him and talk back to him and give him encouragement and all that kind of stuff. But they were attracted to Jerry.
He did that with a lot of
TV
people, too. A lot of people who worked here at one time and have stumbled on hard times used to call him all the time. No matter how busy. Sometimes it'd be like 5:30 or 10:30, just really close to deadline, and somebody would call with a problem from someplace in this country and been fired again, and he would sit and talk to them and see if he could come up with a job in mind for them, and he had always had time for people.
Well, we said we had... I'm sorry. We said we had people, out at home tonight who had memories, too, of Jerry Turner. So why don't we go to phone line right now? Caller, you're on the air. Can we have your comments, please? There we are. Hello.
Yes, hi. My name is Vicky D. I'm a Baltimore entertainer.
How are you?
Hi. My name is...
Well, at this point, I guess I get the point.
And I just called. I just called to reflect upon Jerry's sense of humor. One evening at the Baltimore Hilton, we were performing, and Jerry came over. with his lovely wife and another couple that were eating dinner with Jerry, and they came over and expressed to us, as the band was taking a break, that he was more than just a news commentator, that he was also a musician. And we had expressed, wow, we didn't know that he was a musician. And he said, yes, I'm a trumpet player, and I've played for many years. And I said, really? And we all began laughing because nobody believed him. And he said, yeah. He said, and my chops are still in shape. And at that point, he planted a kiss right on my lips, and it was hilarious because right in front of his wife, it was like, oh my goodness. We all began to laugh. And then we invited him in and said, come on in, Jerry, and play a little bit on the piano. And at that point, everybody in the place recognized who he was, and he sat down and played a little bit on the keyboards. And we just had a wonderful time that evening. Wonderful. I mean, he was just so warm and so kind and just absolutely was overwhelming.
Thank you very much, Vic. That's interesting. He used to always say, lost the lip, Daddy.
I know, I was going to say.
Found the lip that night, didn't he?
But recently, yes, he did. Recently, I know he went to Atlanta for a reunion with some guys that he played with in his college band.
Whoopi John Wilfart?
No, not Whoopi John. Whoopi John. Oh, yes.
He was embarrassed by that.
No, but his school, University of Mississippi, the Southern Mississippi campus, they got together and recorded. And he brought a tape in. I heard a little bit of it.
Well, I'd love to hear that.
And he played on the tape?
He played on the tape.
I wish I could have heard that, yeah.
Well,
I once brought a trumpet in because we were doing some crazy thing on New Year's, and somebody gave me a trumpet. I don't know why. And I brought it in, and I could not persuade him. I could not.
He was a good pianist. No, he used to play it a little bit around here, but, unless you practice every night, he hadn't played it for years.
He had high standards in music, too, because I, covered a lot of music events, and a lot of very famous people came to town, and he would always be extremely gracious on the air, no matter who we were covering, but he'd sort of give me his personal opinions on the side, and he's got high standards.
There was only one entertainer that really upset him, I think, and that was Helen Reddy.
Helen Reddy?
Yeah.
He went backstage to interview her. It had all been arranged, and she just didn't have the time, and he couldn't understand that. And it was like the story of the baseball players coming out of the Cross Keys Hotel, one day, and a couple of young boys standing around, wanting autographs. And, one of the big players came by the boys, and they asked for the autograph. Remember that? And he said some obscenity to him and walked right away. And Jerry came in and shook his head all night. He couldn't understand that. He was really upset about that.
Yeah. Well, it is hard to understand.
Yes.
I like the viewer's comment because it talked about Jerry just introducing himself to people. He was very comfortable with people. And Paul Gluck, who used to direct here, told me the story. He said Jerry wasn't like the Pope walking through the masses. He was just Jerry bopping. And that's what Jerry did. He bopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and he was very, very comfortable with
You
people.
should have seen the night that we walked into the Giant store at the Rotunda because it was this summer. It was just about 3 months ago, and we all decided we'd have a salad. And there's Jerry in this beautiful suit, looking so handsome and so elegant. And we go walking into the Giant around 7, and it was like, oh my gosh, not only is it Jerry Turner, but he looks so terrific. And I thought, oh, he's going to be so bothered that I didn't just bring him a salad, and, and he didn't. He stood there for a good half hour and talked to everybody who came up to him and shook everyone's hand, and I thought, what a lovely thing to do, because he'd just done a newscast and it was about 110 degrees outside, and yet he still had time to just stand there and speak to everyone.
Well, he was very comfortable with people. Natalie Brown tells the story of how she and Jerry went to the Burger King at Mondawmin one night to get dinner for the 11 o'clock crew, and he's in line, and this little kid comes up to him and says, are you the real Jerry Turner? And he says, yes, I am. And the kid said, well, are you going to talk to my mom and dad or what? And Jerry said, sure.
Well, who was the real Jerry Turner? The station promotes, of course, all of us. And if you take a look at some of the promotions, you would see Jerry in many different lights, from formal to just plain weird.
Well, he was
Whenever I visit the Inner Harbor, I can't help but notice people's pride in our city's growth. And those little surprises make Baltimore one of a kind. It's a tradition of teamwork and dedication, a unique spirit that built this city into a great place to call home. And each night, we try to capture that same spirit on Eyewitness News.
Jerry Turner and Eyewitness News, in touch with Baltimore. And that's a good feeling to know. 20 years ago, the spirit of eyewitness news was born when an unknown but dedicated reporter named Jerry Turner came to Channel 13. Right from the very beginning, people sensed that he had something special to offer.
Ooh, French fries. Thanks, Jerry.
The years passed, and slowly but surely, more and more people came to rely on him.
Oh, French fries. Fries? Wow, these are pretty good, Jerry.
And as his responsibilities grew,
French fries. Yeah, French fries.
so did the Eyewitness News team.
Thanks, Jerry.
Until today, there's little doubt as to why Jerry Turner is the most popular anchorman in Baltimore.
French fries.
For over 20 years, it's been a good feeling to know Jerry Turner and Eyewitness News.
Everything's changing. You know, you blink your eyes and it's different. So I just try not to blink my eyes.
It's new.
I'll tell you, some of it's for the better and some of it's not.
Can I just have my typewriter back?
I'm a salesman.
You're a
I'm a pipe fitter.
It'll be all right. You know, we'll handle it. We always have.
Jerry Turner, Eyewitness News.
Hey, Jerry. Al. Enjoying the crabs?
Oh, sure. It's our favorite pastime.
And I can say the same for Eyewitness News. It's what people like.
That's it. People. That's what Eyewitness News is all about. You know, never forgetting your problems. What's important to folks like you and me.
And you guys in Eyewitness News make all the difference. It's remarkable how you're so much in touch.
Excuse me. You gotta grab my crab.
My crab. Oh.
You didn't see that one too much. Let me tell you. By that take, which was like number 99, those crabs were starting to stink something. Right. Oh, yes. We will be back in just a moment to continue this night of tribute to Jerry Turner.
I thank Junior Achievement for this award tonight. In my case, an advancing year is more like Senior Achievement, but I'll take it. And it's good to be in the Hall of Fame, somebody's Hall of Fame. Frankly, I had always hoped for baseball, but this is what it's going to be. That's fine, too.
Welcome back, and joining us now in this special tribute to Jerry is another friend of Jerry, Richard Scher.
Hi.
We'll talk to Richard and get some of his thoughts in just a moment. But let's go back to the phones now. We promised that we would get and listen to what you had to say tonight. Caller, if you're there, let's have your comments. Please turn
My
your...
name is Richard.
All right.
And I remember Jerry very well.
Please turn your television down, please.
My TV is down.
Okay, then go right ahead.
I remember Jerry very well. I'm a security guard where he lives. I'm also a student at Morgan State University. And every night he would come home, he would see me doing my homework. And one night he decided to help me. And when I turned in the paper to my English professor, she accused me of plagiarism, saying that it was so sophisticated. And when I got back to him the next night, he said, "How did you make out?" I said, "We bummed on this one."
Oh, no.
Thank you, caller. Well, you should have started with me, then worked your way up. Right.
You know, he did help everybody. I mean, as Denise mentioned in the last segment, Jerry had time for everybody, and none of us really realized how much time he had for all of us until now, because we never really talked about it, because we took Jerry for granted, that if we needed him for something, he would always be there. And I just wanted to say how much he meant to me. I mean, he was responsible for getting me on television. He auditioned with me. He called me and told me to come down here. And when we first started, when people were talking, started going opposite Oprah, we didn't do very well, as you know. I mean, she hammered us. And one day from Ocean City, right after the ratings had come out, Jerry called me from Ocean City, and he said, "Rich, I wanted you to know your show was great today." Yeah. He said, "I watch you every day, and don't let this get you down, because you're going to bounce back, and don't let Oprah go to your head. Don't worry about it." And I really appreciated that. And I just wanted to say that because I haven't had a chance to.
Yeah. Well, we all have those memories. I would love to turn in. I think, in fact, you mentioned in a piece, George, that you never minded too much when he would work on the lead that you had written your story.
He's a better writer. I never complained.
Yeah. No, neither did I, because he did have a gift when it came to writing. Now, he would take what would seem to be, and I don't know if I can even phrase it correctly, but it would seem to be the most complex of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would become so simple. So
That's right.
easy. Just the right combination of words.
Yeah, like I said, not an encyclopedia.
Particularly those financial stories that none of us understand.
Well,
he could make something even that understandable. You were talking about your walk, your trip to the Giant for the salad, and how everybody stopped. One night, many years ago, when Coach George Mills allowed me to play on the softball team before he...
You played on the softball?
Yeah, that was before, he's behind camera one, that's before he threw me off. But in any case, we invited Jerry, who fancied himself as a terrific baseball player, to stop in. It was a charity game, and he didn't have much time between newscasts, but he came to this particular game. It was at St. Mary's Seminary up on Roland Avenue. Came in one of those beautiful suits that he always wore, just like the one he wore to the Giant to the salad bar. And he came up and everybody clapped, and he took off his coat in the suit and his expensive shoes, stood up, hit a double, ran to second base, put in a pinch runner, came off, did this to the crowd as he always did, put on his coat, and left.
Yeah. You speak of clothes. Back in the early days, Jerry had an affinity for what is called white on white. Cotton shirt with silk threads running through it. We had a program manager then who was a real martinet. A Prussian general is the way he ran it. He called Jerry upstairs one day and he said, talk to him. Jerry came down. He said, you know what he said to me? And I said, what? This is all he said to me. He said, no more white on white. And Jerry said, I'm not going to take that. I'll wear what I want to wear. Jerry never wore white on white again. Never.
Yeah. Well, we've learned, I guess, tonight a lot about Jerry that some didn't know, and we've heard some old things too. And in a sense, we can now put it all together as we take a look back at the life of Jerry Turner.
I was going to be a musician. That's what I always wanted to be, or a doctor, I guess.
It is hard to imagine what things would have been like in Baltimore if Jerry Turner hadn't decided to be a TV news anchor.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, Mayor Schaefer is drying off from a swim he did not expect to take.
He often joked about getting out of the business, but television would be his life.
I've often thought about getting out of it, but I don't know. I could go into show business and know I do one-liners. Oh, do you? I do one-liners real good.
It was August 1962 when Jerry came to WJZ. People who grew up here say they remember the news of 2 decades from that assured and distinctive voice.
A spokesman for the Baltimore Steamship Trade Association, James Fortune, says his group has come to terms with the striking Baltimore longshoremen.
I'll follow whatever advice my attorney has for me. I just hate to go to the trouble of moving when the final issue's not settled.
The 15-year-old boy has been charged by Baltimore County Police with murdering his mother, father, and sister in his family's Parkville home. The youngster gave himself up to police authorities today.
But it wasn't only the hard news.
When you come out of here, how long will you have stayed under a shower?
102 hours.
This is Jerry Turner on another exciting assignment here at College Park at the Phi Sigma Delta House in the shower.
Jerry was born in Meridian, Mississippi. He studied music at the University of Southern Mississippi. In 1952, he married Jean McIntyre of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Jerry loved Maryland and spent his holidays here in Ocean City.
I like to cook. I very seldom cook down here, and I cook at home sometimes. So when we come down here, we go out.
As much as Jerry loved Maryland, Maryland loved Jerry. On his 25th anniversary at WJZ, fans and friends turned out to say thank you.
And we've been through some very perilous times. In 1964 and 1968, as you know, we covered them, at least I did, and those led to better times for all the people of Baltimore.
It's a long way from Meridian, Mississippi to the top of TV Hill. But the only way to get there now is Jerry Turner Way.
Yeah. You know, we've been talking all night long and we'll always talk about Jerry with his wonderful sense of humor and his wonderful wit and his wonderful playfulness with people. But I remember just about 2 months ago, he had come back from some treatment and was coming to the newsroom to do the show. And for the first time I'd seen him, he looked just a little glum, just a little serious. So I went over and was joking with him, instead of going, "Hey, how you doing, Bubba?" And he said, "Well, I'm not doing too well." And it took me back, because I had never in all that year heard him ever say to me anything that was not up, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm great. And I sort of did back to him what he had so many times done for me and tried to cheer him up a little bit. And he turned to me and he said, "Don't kid a kidder.
Yeah.
I'm not doing well." And that was the first time I ever really believed that Jerry was not doing well. Up until then, he convinced me.
We'll come back in just a moment to continue.
And finally tonight, just a few moments to pass along the best wishes of the Eyewitness News team to all of you. It has been a pleasure for us to bring you these programs each night, and every member of our team hopes that 1987 will bring the best to all of you as 1986 has done for us. Happy New Year, everybody, and good night.
We're back, and we are joined by more Jerry's friends. Kim Singleton is with us now, and John Buren has come back with us. And if you think that we'll have a few words about sports and Jerry, you're right. Absolutely right.
He liked this guy.
Oh, I know he did.
Liked this guy a lot.
Yes.
I always tried hard. I think he liked the players that tried hard, give a decent effort every single night.
Mm-hmm.
And, you would think that Jerry's favorite player would be one of the bigger stars, and you know how he loved the Orioles, but it wasn't one of the bigger stars on the team. It was a player that did a good job, there's no doubt about it. I think you all recall what Gary Renicky did during some of the Oriole heydays here in Baltimore, but I think because of the fact that Gary was kind of a tall, graceful player when he was playing, and if you thought of Jerry, he was tall and graceful. I think Jerry thought of himself as a Gary Renicky type player. And from an Orioles standpoint, I think Jerry thought he could have been Gary Renicky if he'd been baseball.
What about Scrap Iron? Clint Courtney.
That's before my time. I remember he's a catcher, and I couldn't think of Jerry as a catcher.
Who was the three-fingered?
That was one of his favorite players.
Oh, okay.
He came from St. Louis with the Browns.
Okay.
Three-fingered.
Who was the three-fingered player that Jerry always talked about? The three-fingered pitcher.
Montague.
Mordecai Brown.
Mordecai Brown, that's it.
Thank you.
It was split finger, yes.
We did that show down the Hit and Run Club last year before opening day. I finally got the chance to ask him. He said something about three-finger Mordecai Brown, and I said, "Jerry, come on, you're making this up. There is no such guy."
There was.
And that was the punchline. He said, "Yeah, it's split-finger fastball." Jerry Wither, because I used to play golf with him frequently. I know it's not exaggerated. I played a lot of golf with him every now and then. Very enjoyable. Some of the most enjoyable times I ever had on a golf course. And the endless hours that all of us spent probably talking about sports with Jerry. He was kind of, in the same way that I was describing his ability to break up on the set. It was, he could become a child for a moment and just laugh like only children can laugh. He had that kind of enthusiasm. And when it came to baseball, he had the same kind of energy and the enthusiasm a little child watching a game for the very first time.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jerry Turner.
And I'm Al Sandy.
And tonight, another reason for the joy of living in Baltimore is the trophy that rests here tonight, the one that says Baseball Champions of the World. And that distinction, of course, belongs to the Baltimore Orioles.
That Turner enthusiasm was never so apparent as it was on this fall evening in 1983 as the city of Baltimore celebrated an Orioles World Championship. Jerry got so carried away, he went out and bought a bundle of T-shirts.
You'd like to see what they look like, isn't it nice? I love it, if I can ever get it. Number one. I mean, that is where we should be.
It says it all.
1983 World Champion. Boy, that has a nice ring to it.
Well, he just enjoyed life as much as anybody that I knew, and he enjoyed coming to the ballpark, and he was a personality. He was around Baltimore for a long, long time, and people definitely are going to miss Jerry Turner. In the clubhouse, he'd walk in with his smile, no matter how glum things were, and it seemed to cheer us up when he came around.
Jerry loved to, do the early news, then jump over to the ballpark if we were home. Run in there and grab a sandwich, and then come down and sit down on the back of the booth and just loved to talk baseball. Loved every facet of it. And he was just pure and simple an Orioles fan. And he was the same way about the Colts.
And about other sports as well. During the summer months, it was difficult to get Jerry off of the golf course. And along the way, Jerry even managed to cover a young heavyweight boxer
then known as Cassius Clay.
Have you heard from Sonny since you fought him last?
Well, all I heard about Sonny Liston, he got in a lot of trouble out there in Denver, Colorado. He was caught with a pistol in his car, speeding, and all of that was my fault.
How's that?
Sonny Liston was driving on the highway one day. He wasn't bothering nobody. He wasn't bothering nobody. Somebody saw him and recognized him, and they said, "Hey!" And he thought they said, "Clay!"
It was with the O's, though, that Jerry was most at home. The ball club gave him his own uniform. Most of the players got to know him personally, and when one of those former Oriole players joined the Eyewitness sports team, he was immediately impressed by the big league attitude Jerry brought to his job.
I think I'd never seen him in a grumpy mood when I came in here. And I think that's what I'll miss.
He did his job, I think, as well as anybody I've ever seen on local news programs. And believe me, I've lived in a lot of places and traveled a lot of places. And again, he made the news enjoyable. It just wasn't the news. It was something that you could sit down, learn something from, and really enjoy it.
Jerry liked that man. Yeah, dude, Earl made a lot of us happy, made Jerry happy a lot of nights. You know, it seemed, I mentioned the other day that I felt that Jerry sometimes couldn't wait to get through the newscast, so he'd get to the sports, especially when he knew the home team had won, whether it be the Brass or the Orioles or whoever won. Jerry was glad to bring the happy news to the people out there that their team had come through that night.
I got to tell you one Jerry Goff story, which I think was indicative of the grace of the man at the same time as indicating his humor. I was playing golf with Jerry one time, and one of the people in our foursome was not very good.
It wasn't me, don't blame me.
I'm saying that as gracefully as I can. Right. And Jerry, of course, would never say anything to run anybody down or to make them feel bad, but this guy was so bad. So Jerry and I are sitting there watching him putt, and he's got like about a 12-foot putt for triple bogey or whatever it was. And so we're sitting there watching him putt. 12-foot putt, he leaves it 3 feet short. And Jerry wouldn't say anything to the guy, but he says to me out the side of his mouth, he says, "You know, it's funny, most people would have gone for it from there." I dissolved. The other guy thinks I'm laughing. Yeah, that was his way. It was his grace.
Do you remember the night that Jerry and I were co-anchoring together, about 6-7 months ago, and we were leading into sports, and of course Jerry loved the fact that I did not know a whole lot about sports, and he just loved to get to the sports section so he could see how much I didn't know. And he leaned to me before the sportscast, as you can imagine, and said, "Now, Denise, what's coming up now is that there's this team playing this team, and these, of course, are teams in different sports, and they're about to play at this arena, which, of course, doesn't exist, and that's what the big sports news is." So I sort of go, "Oh, okay." So we come out of the set, and he looks at me and he goes, "Well, Denise?" I said, "Oh, well, this team's going to play this arena," at which point you sort of looked at me like I was crazy, and Jerry fell on the floor and dissolved.
You know how I got a kick out of Denise? That's the key. All right. Because there was to throw everything into chaos because he knew he could pull it out. The guy was the best in chaotic situations I've ever seen.
Well, times have changed now. Denise is, just learning on sports.
Oh,
right.
Wikipedia this way.
Yeah, but if you say, "Well, Denise."
Before we go any further, I want to thank Bob Turk for having us into his house tonight to do this. Didn't he do a great job?
Beautiful. This goes back to Turk's house.
We have to bring some firewood, though.
Well, I tell you what, we'll sort of come back in a few minutes to kind of wrap up this hour of tribute to Jerry. So please come back with us.
Finally, you may remember the old song, "Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree." Now there's a new version. "Don't Sit Under the Bunya Tree."
What?
It's a 90-foot bomb-dropping tree imported from Australia. It's been replanted near a parking lot in Santa Rosa, California. For the past 3 weeks, the Bunya tree has been dropping its fruit. Each Bunya weighs 16 pounds.
Oh, my.
So far, it has wiped out 3 cars, put a Bunya lump on the head of 2 motorists, and they would dig it up, but they have to wait for it first to run out of Bunya. That's right. Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Welcome back to our tribute to Jerry Turner. Rejoining us, George Bauman and Bob Turk.
I was just thinking about some things. When I started this business, I knew nothing about it. Came in here for my audition. Jerry was in here. He watched me go through the audition. I think he even recommended that maybe they'd give me a chance. Now, remember, I came in here with a full beard and long hair.
Oh, I remember.
Now, you've been here about 6 months.
I remember, yes.
Jerry made it so easy for me to work on the big anchor set with his big newscast I walked in the first day for my audition. I saw Jerry Turner, and my mouth was open. That's Jerry Turner, my goodness. Then to find out a couple weeks later that I'd be working with the man, I found out he was just a normal guy, just like anybody else.
Jerry had a million get-rich-quick schemes. And the greatest of them all was the great black bottom pie episodes. His wife baked a great black bottom pie, southern delicacy, I'm told. And we were going to become the kings of black bottom pies in Baltimore.
That's you and Jerry, we.
That's we. Until they found out about the scheme. You see, Gene was going to bake all these black bottom pies.
One by one.
The bottom fell out of it.
The black bottom.
I'd never heard that. Never heard
the black bottom pies.
No, but I remember Bob when he came in, and Jerry, in fact, they even did a promo based on that. Mm-hmm. But he really did think that, there was a spark. There was something underneath the beard and the jeans and the no shoes. There was something.
In my audition, I mentioned something about the daffodils are blooming, Jerry. And it started the rapport right there. The chemistry was just terrific.
Well, of course, Jerry was very proud of the scholarship fund that was established in his name to benefit journalism students. And accordingly, we asked that those who wanted to remember him do so by contributing to the scholarship fund. You can do so by sending your contribution to the Jerry Turner Scholarship Fund, 6 East Hamilton Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202.
If you've been watching our station over the years, you know that for a couple of years in a row, we have done marathons to raise money for the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. And Jerry did that with tremendous love because he really had a great affection for the BSO and was always very excited for the marathons. And the very first marathon, there was a bid put out that if somebody pledged enough money, Jerry would conduct the symphony. And he was so excited when that money was pledged, and he was given the honor of stepping in front of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra.
So the hour comes to an end. It was all too brief. We only began to touch some of the many moments we wanted to. We move on now, but we have some new memories, of course, to hold near and near. And from time to time, we can certainly think about the moments we shared with Jerry. So, for the entire Eyewitness News team, I'm Al Sanders. Good night.
World leaders and world citizens paid final tribute today to Sir Winston Churchill.
Tonight, the world is reeling from the news that Egypt's president, 62-year-old Anwar Sadat, has been shot and killed by terrorists within his own army. Good evening, everybody. At this hour, there are new signs that the owner of the Baltimore Colts is ready to do something. He may have already done it.
This baseball team, especially when during the years that we're calling the dynasty years, probably put Baltimore on the map as much as anything else has ever happened in the city.
Are we having fun yet, is what I want to know.
We are.
Let's make this city an even better place to live.